Okay, welcome back, everyone. This short lecture will talk about another type of tissue called muscle tissue. Now, muscle comes in three flavors: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Of the three, the only one that you have voluntary conscious control over is skeletal muscle. This is the type of muscle that attaches to your skeleton. We are going to spend a lot of time on a lab exam going over just the skeletal muscles. You have voluntary conscious control over them, whereas cardiac and smooth muscle is involuntary. We do not have conscious voluntary control. When we look at skeletal muscle under a microscope, we see its dense connective tissue, right? And we see these striations. Both skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle have this striated appearance, which is the type of look of how the light passes through the protein filaments. Because there are dark and light filaments there, and it's pretty dense, it gives it this striated type of appearance. So both cardiac and skeletal muscle do appear striated. There are long fibers, they're cylindrical, they're multinucleated cells, and there are obvious striations, again, used for voluntary movement. If you want to smile, you can. If you want your triceps or biceps to contract, you can. It's any muscle that is attaching to the skeleton and you have conscious control is skeletal muscle. When we look at cardiac muscle, yes, it's striated, but this one is highly branched. What you're looking at here, look at how we have branches, one this way, one this way, one this way. It's like a main trunk, and then you have branches coming off of it. These are uninucleated. Now, another big difference is this structure called intercalated discs. These are intercalated discs. We do not see this with skeletal muscle. But where we have the union of one cardiac muscle cell and another, where they come together, they form this disc. These lines are called intercalated discs. And if we were to pull these two cardiomyocytes apart and we were to look in it, there's a type of junction there that are called gap junctions, GAP. Gap junctions are utilized for fast, rapid forms of communication, where this cell has to rapidly communicate with this one. It has to rapidly communicate with this one. They all talk to one another so that we know that both atrium of the heart are contracting at the same time and both ventricles contract at the same time. So they're contracting in sync. Otherwise, you're going to have disharmony between each chamber, and the atriums contract and the ventricles contract. Atrium, then ventricles, then top chambers, then bottom chambers, top chambers and bottom chambers, atriums, then ventricles, atriums, then ventricles. It is the gap junctions that are responsible for that fast, rapid form of communication, so that every cell in the right atrium can communicate rapidly with the cells of the left atrium, and they beat in rhythm. Okay, so intercalated discs. So when we look at them, we see this is striated, this is skeletal muscle, we see it's striated, we see that it's branched, and we see intercalated discs. This is cardiac muscle. When we look at smooth muscle, we don't see the same striations that we see in smooth muscle, and that's why it's referred to as smooth. Okay, there are no striations, and the cells are arranged in closely formed sheaths. They're spindle shaped with a central nuclei that we see here. See how we have all these centrally located nuclei. Now, smooth muscle is found Again, it's involuntary like cardiac muscle, and it's found throughout your blood vessels. You find it throughout your gastrointestinal tract. You don't have conscious control, but there's smooth muscle around the colon. And if this smooth muscle going around the colon is constricted, you can have difficulty moving the bowels. You're going to be constipated. But if they're dilated muscle, then it's easy to pass, and sometimes too easy to pass. You have it along your windpipe. We have smooth muscle around the trachea. And if it's constricted, you have wheezing and difficulty in breathing. If it's dilated, it's easy to breathe. You have smooth muscle around the uterus. When the uterus contracts involuntarily, a woman will experience menstrual cramps or cramps during labor. All right, so smooth muscle, involuntary, cardiac muscle, involuntary. Cardiac muscle is striated, smooth muscle is not. Skeletal muscle is striated, as is cardiac, but skeletal is the only one that we can voluntarily contract. When we come back, we will finish up talking about the neuron.